Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show where we talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the series finale of Titans. Great series finale. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. So we're immediately picking up in the aftermath of last episode. Rachel tries to talk to Sebastian as he's risen Trigon. You know, and it's like, oh, whatever happened, oh, your mom, it's like, yeah, I'm over that. She was just a means to an end. It's like, oh, mom said that you and I, we could rule this together, but Rachel's trying to talk to him, saying, like, you don't have to do this. Like, you have a choice in this situation. The fact is, you don't listen to Trigon, he's a liar. You won't get what you want in the end. But for him, it's like, I guess he is starting to believe Rachel because he believes he can't trust anyone. All he can trust in is himself because he feels like every time he's turned around, everyone he's kind of put his trust in has betrayed him. So he ends up, I don't know if it's full-blown killing Trigon. Maybe. He ended up ripping out his heart. That was kind of unexpected. But I think it's more so, I mean, he's probably not fully powered up. He had just gotten summoned. So, plus all the power that Sebastian had already absorbed, especially from Mother Mayhem, plus the powers he already had. I think now he ended up taking, like I said, we didn't see, like, I don't know if that is considered Trigon dying, or is that him being sealed away again? Like, oh, like, without, like, it's like losing a fraction of who you are, that kept you kind of stabilized in this world. Or maybe he is straight up dead. Either way, Sebastian ate part of his heart, drunk from his blood, and gained his powers. And because at this point in time, he's no longer Sebastian. He is fully brother blood. So he's out doing his thing. And in the end, they find Connor. And it does seem, I was like, there's no way he's like dead. But it seemed like he actually was. I think it's interesting. It's like red kryptonite and some other stuff. Basically making it like a almost Kryptonian EpiPen of sorts. Which I think is interesting. Cause I'm wondering like what in that regard. Well, because I'm like, because I feel like what red kryptonite does changes. Because obviously in like Smallville, it manipulated, I think it manipulated Clark in Smallville. And I think in Supergirl, it caused her to kind of rage out more, if I remember correctly. I think that was a season 1 storyline. Like it came up like maybe once in Supergirl. Hasn't come up in Superman and Lois yet. But maybe it hasn't, I'm just not remembering. But I'm like, what does red kryptonite do specifically for it to have that effect of kind of bringing him back to death? Maybe it's just kind of like supposed to be kind of like an upper, like it's supposed to just be a stimulant in general. And so you add all that stuff and maybe you like modify the red kryptonite enough so it acts as a stimulant to kind of get the heart beating again and not just kind of make you lose control of yourself. So, but it initially doesn't work, so the team doesn't know if Connor, it seems like, oh, it didn't work, but Dick goes ahead and sets a reservation for 6 because he's expecting all of them to make it out of this. So you have Sebastian making his way to Star Labs and going on his tirade about how, like, right, he wants something there, and he's saying that if they're the ones who shut down his game, he's like, something I made that was pure and good that I wanted to kind of put out there in the world, and you took the one, like, basically blaming them, saying, like, if it wasn't for you, I would be the person, I'd still be holding on to some good part of me because I wanted to do good, which I think is very beautifully, like, countered later on, like, that statement with what, Dick ends up telling, jumping in a little bit, but Connor, that it comes down to asking yourself why you did the things you did. Did you do it for yourself or did you do it for others? Sebastian is pretending like maybe he's deluded enough to actually believe what he did, and probably did. It started off like, hey, I want to help other people, but at the core of all it is, he always wanted to be special. He always felt like nothing and no one, and he's blaming, like, oh, if the world was nicer to me, but for him, it's like, I know that this world is filled with cruelty and pain. That's all that exists in this world. And I've had that pushed on me for so long. I want to make other people feel it. So it's that type of kind of sad. It's kind of like the perpetual bully thing. If you get bullied, you're more likely to bully someone else because it's like, hey, you want to feel powerful. You don't want to feel weak. And all that is kind of encapsulated in Sebastian's character. That at his core, he's always wanted So it's that thing of, oh, you had maybe good intentions, but they were muddied because at their core they came from a selfish place of, I want to be important, I want to be seen as special, which he got that, but what pissed him off is it was taken away from him, and he's blaming Star Labs. It's like, it was hurting people, but in his mind it's like, well, I'm bringing all these people together, and to me, we'll all be together inside of me, so it's fine, I'm uniting the world. It's like, no, your core directive in that moment is just to make yourself more powerful. His intentions were always, once again, I always go back to the good place thing of life. Doesn't matter how many good deeds you do, if it comes from a selfish place, it doesn't count. So it's in that same regard. So killed a lot of people in Star Labs. Might have actually killed the entire staff, which is like, that kind of sucks for Star Labs in the future, having to restaff. I guess the only reason why Bernard was spared is because he was watching through a camera, so it's like the effect didn't, because he wasn't directly in eye line of Sebastian, so it didn't work, But because time is running out, because it turns out that Star Labs has a project known as Icarus. Basically, it's a wormhole they've been working on, but they've never had anything powerful enough to charge it, which is so interesting. I wonder, would Clark not be, he's one of the probably most powerful beings, so I'm like, you would think maybe a fully charged Clark. But maybe that's kind of supposed to represent, maybe a Tamaranian, specifically Starfire, could reach power levels that even Clark couldn't. We know that Starfire could really explode her power if probably sacrificing herself in the process, and maybe Clark would have to push himself to such a limit to kind of measure in that same capacity. But either way, this wormhole is what Sebastian's after. He's planning on destroying Tamarin because it's right, this is the one thing that could, these people were always kind of destined to be able to stop me or stop Trigon. So I need to destroy it, but I'm also going to destroy this worthless planet in the process because, both are a nuisance and both are an issue. Last thing I want is this world that kind of denied me, that he takes out all his issues against. Then he also wants to destroy Tamarin just so there's no one else out there in the universe that could potentially stop him. Dick is hoping on everything that when this is all said and done, that he's trying to find another way. It's getting to that point. Him, Gar, Rachel, they're all worried. What if it comes down to this? What if there is no other? What can we do other than, because Corey's set in her ways of believing that she has to sacrifice herself. Even going back to the point that she's like, yeah, remember when we first met? She's like, I didn't like you. And he's like, I didn't like you either. And she's like, why not? It's like, you stole my car. She's like, yeah, sorry about that. But she's really glad she's gotten to know him. And for Dick, it's like, it sounds like you're trying to say goodbye. But he doesn't want to say goodbye to her. This can't be how things end. But when they do get to Star Labs, sadly, Sebastian draws Corey in. And for him, it's like, I no matter what you do, any type of energy you use in this place, whether you use it to try and kill me or fight me, it's all going to go towards powering the Icarus. It's all going to go to powering the wormhole, so I'm kind of winning either way. Because even going as far as saying I bet you wish that you kill me when you had the chance, but for her it's which she dealt with that all 2 episodes ago, episode 10, when she was saying that she's going back not to kill Sebastian, not because she hates Sebastian, but to protect the people she loves. And for her it's everyone has a choice to be who they want to be. You had a choice. You just made the wrong choice. You decided who you wanted to be. Sebastian did make that choice regardless of his reasons. And she's like, everyone deserves that choice, and I gave you your choice. You could have been whoever you wanted to be. You've chosen to be Brother Blood, so I'll stop you now. But I won't sit and drown in my regrets on giving you the choice to decide who you wanted to be. You were given that choice multiple times by Corey, by Rachel. They were all giving him an opportunity, but he never took it. So I do like that we get our team up of obviously Tim joins up, Robin 3.0, and I love Dick saying, yeah, the third time's the charm, and I think it will work out this time around. especially because Tim never ended up having to deal with Bruce's tutelage. Let's all be frank. Like, Bruce is what part of the reason why Dick and Jason end up as fucked up as they did. But either way. But I did like the opportunity of kind of getting to see them all work together one last time. Because obviously, you know, you got to get some like close quarters combat stuff, especially for Robins. I do like when they were fighting Sebastian too. Like they were passing like the Tim's staff back and forth between them while they were fighting him. I thought was pretty dope. All the while he's draining Corey's power. It's like, right, if you won't fight me and draw out your power, I'll just like take it from you. So it took Rachel reaching out to her, I think, like giving her a reason to kind of snap out of it and fight back, and it's just kind of all. And maybe that's just what was already going through Corey's mind in this moment, thinking like, I have to sacrifice myself, but thinking about all the people she loves. But maybe it was Rachel like flooding her mind with all their memories together. The wormhole's activated. Gar's trying not to get sucked into it. I'm trying to think, is this our first time ever seeing him doing like the partial transformation? Because he turned one of his arms into an octopus arm. I was like, I want to say that might be the first time we've ever seen him do a partial transformation in this series. I mean, other than in times like his face will change in his teeth. So we have seen it before, but not to this extent, I don't think. So I thought that was just kind of interesting. But obviously their heavy hitter came through in the end. Connor was still alive. And they ended up jacking Sebastian up. So I guess that was kind of like the power system of the Icarus thing, the wormhole. So being blasted into it, like all of Corey's energy is being stored there to act as a battery for this thing. And the moment he hits it, it's just all that's flooding into him. And I don't know if it like diminished all of his powers, just some of it. Who knows? But it's like you can't leave him around because like it's still bubbling beneath the surface. So if you left him alone, he'd end up sometime. There's always a possibility he'd come back. Because I'm about to say like, oh, is he normal now? Or are they just going to lock him up? But Corey's like, we can't take the chance. Like too much is at stake. So, and even saying that, you know, this is the way, because Dick is like, hey, we can beat prophecies, as Sebastian was saying, we can rewrite things. So it's like, this doesn't have to be in. Like, see, we saved the day. You don't have to sacrifice yourself. But for her, it's like to protect both of her homes, she needs to. So she is willing to sacrifice herself. She's like, everything has to come to an end at some point in time. Flies into the sky and kind of explodes like a star and kill Sebastian. And I was kind of actually wondering, like, they're not actually going to do that, right? Like, I was like, is she going to like come back and be like kind of reborn and maybe not remember anything, which I think would also be extremely sad, but at least she'd be still alive. And it just seemed like this was the end. I mean, she sacrificed herself for everything, but coming back down like a falling star herself. And I think that's kind of interesting too, that her like when she was coming back down, her power was represented by red again. So I guess maybe in that moment, like her power served its purpose. The blue light she had served its purpose of killing Sebastian / Trigon. So I think like there's no need for that power anymore. That's why that power existed in the first place, was for this moment. So I guess her powers kind of go back to a normal Tamaranian like princess's power. I mean, because the whole red flame thing was supposed to be her sister's power to begin with. She just ended up like taking it at a young age. So I'm curious. I don't know. I don't know, because I was about to say, like, I don't think that's a re-entering the atmosphere thing, because it kept going even when she was coming down. Like she was already like on like properly back in like Earth's atmosphere. So I think it's supposed to represent that's what her power shifted back to, and the blue light's gone now. So, but it is this beautiful thing of the Titans are okay, and all 6 of them are alive, which I even love. Connor, they're like, you're alive. He's like, damn straight. Wait, I was dead? We'll explain later, buddy. But to see them all kind of together one last time, but they've already been setting it up this season that it's like, right, everyone was going to go their separate ways, but at least they're together one last time. Gar's going back to the red. He's gotten some answers, but he feels like there's still more he can do. Plus, I'm always kind of like a snap away. I'm always there if you guys need me. Rachel wants a normal life. She's going to a college in Bloodhaven, so it's not too far from Gotham. You guys could always visit. Which Tim is going back to Gotham. Well, he's got a life in Gotham, got life in Metropolis because, hey, Robin is always going to be tied to Gotham, so it's like, right, especially with no Batman, they've got a Red Hood, and so I'm sure him and Jason will probably team up from time to time. So, I mean, you got 3 of the Bat family there. You have Barbara, Jason, and Tim, who will also be kicking in Metropolis. So, him and Bernard. So he's got a life there, which you also have Connor. I think he said he was going to stay in Metropolis too because, Superman wants to meet him. It's like, yeah, time to finally get those flying lessons, which I was like, oh yeah, I actually keep completely forgetting that Connor doesn't have the power to fly yet. How obviously very Smallville of him, having not learned that yet. Hasn't had anyone to teach him yet, so I completely forgot he doesn't know how to fly yet. And so that just kind of leaves, it's kind of sad that, Dick and Corey have to see the kids fly to Coop a little bit. But it's also the thing of, right, change is a good thing. He's like, if we all stayed where we were, we wouldn't be where we are. Like, them all leaving behind, their circumstances in their lives are why they became the team that they are now. So it's kind of like, right, you got to let the kids spread their wings and fly to Coop because this isn't the end. We'll always be Titans. But it's just kind of that sad thing of, having to say goodbye. But even Connor, worried about meeting Clark because he's like, what if Clark doesn't... It's not even just about Clark approving of who he is. He doesn't approve of who he is, doing what he did, regardless of his reasons of I was trying to do the right thing. But it's like, at the end of the day, what were you doing it to, help people or not? Because the bad guys, they don't ask that question. They don't feel guilt over that. And that's where you get the Sebastian. That's where you see the difference between him and Connor in that moment. So I thought that was kind of pretty neat. Because when Corey had died or whatever, we did see kind of that flashback of all the Titans together for a Christmas thing. I think that was I guess that's supposed to be in between season 2 and 3 because Tim wasn't there at that Christmas party or whatever. So I guess that was before they went to Gotham. Kind of celebrating. It's like, oh yeah, be kind to your fellow man. So, Tamaranian and Kryptonians and animals and half demons. It's like, be kind to everyone. I thought that was such a beautiful thing. And at the end, Dick and Corey, it's like, yeah, I mean, it sucks they're all going. I mean, they didn't even leave this crypto. Corey's like, I know, but whatever. We'll be seeing the kids around. So. But I guess it's just we'll have to kind of, keep ourselves busy for a while. And just like was kind of known that if humans and Tamaranians came together, they'd be unstoppable. And it's like, oh, should we kind of get started on that? And Corey's like, how about we start with a drink first? Start there before we start moving forward. Because both of them had that vision of what the future lies in front of them, especially when they were walking past a mom with her baby in a carriage. So it's kind of... I thought that was just kind of a beautiful thing because obviously it's once again they're going their separate ways for now, but they're always going to be bound together, and you never know. I mean, obviously the Titans roster has always changed, so there's always been different people on the roster. So that obviously we look at the OG roster compared to where it is now. I mean, the OG one that we got introduced to in this show, so. That isn't too much of a surprise to see, what makes you wonder, what other Titans would get introduced later on in the show. I guess, while everyone's off doing their thing, we'll probably still would need the Titans, so they'd probably find some fellow Titans to fill that void, from time to time, or maybe they'd all come together, and obviously in any time of need, so. I thought that was kind of, I think it was kind of a very nice, touching, and beautiful end. Obviously, I still would want more. I saw somewhere that someone had, I want to say, was it a writer on the show or something, that was they were kind of more confident about the show getting a revival at some point in time. I personally don't see that happening just with the direction the DCU is heading, kind of with everything. Everything's coming to an end, so I don't know if that'd be the case, but, I'd always be down for more of, like, these characters returning in some shape or form, whether or not they eventually do, like the DCU does. I mean, we already getting a Flashpoint, so I don't know if they'd go through the trouble of doing a Crisis on Infinite Earths in a movie format. I mean, they'd have to do that at some point in time, so we could see some of these actors returning later on down the road if they wanted to, or maybe in some other capacity, some multiversal thing in the DCU, we could see some of these characters and actors returning as these characters in some shape or form. But for now, I'm not too worried about the future. I'm living kind of in the present and being able to well, it's funny to say that considering like everyone's got their plans for their futures and stuff. But at the end of the day, living in the present, saying goodbye to the show. Yes, I know people have had very mixed feelings about the show, but I've thoroughly enjoyed it all the way through. Especially, like, I'm not well versed in the comics, so my experience with the Titans has always been the TV show, Teen Titans, the early 2000s one on Cartoon Network. So kind of getting this darker, grittier, like, kind of, not reboot, but the interpretation of those characters is kind of neat for me to get to see. And I've fallen in love with these versions of these characters just as much as I have the original Titans from the Teen Titans cartoon, so... Once again, like I said, I know it hasn't ever been everyone's cup of tea, but I thoroughly enjoyed this show, and I will miss it and these actors playing these characters. Like I said, who knows what the future holds, but for now, kind of have to say goodbye. So to everyone that's been involved in the show, front of the camera, behind the camera, cast and crew, I wish everyone the best in their future endeavors. But really, that's all I wanted to talk about. To the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day, and goodbye.